I'm really happy to have you here. It's always a pleasure to talk with people who are so experienced in the tech. And you are super experienced, I would say, because you have the EY background, so the business background, and currently you're connecting the role of the CTO, CPO. For many years, you worked on the eBay, so like one of the, I think, the biggest marketplaces in Germany. Now you are involved in Mobila, and while I was living in Germany, it was like huge thing. So if you look for a car, you you know the website, um, and you made so many different things. So I'm just wondering, after so many experiences, what is the next role for you?
Yeah, actually stopped thinking about the next door. It's more trying to live in the here and now a little bit. Um, I think it's more additions to the role. I think, as you stated, I gained a lot of experience through consulting, through my current role in Mobila, and being happy about delivering valuable products to millions of users every month. So it's more looking into what of this experience and knowledge can I give back to the community. Maybe this is also one reason why we're talking here. Um, I'm thinking about advisory roles, for example, to really help also early stage startups in a way in growing faster, or trying to prevent from making the same mistakes over and over again that we did in the past. Um, I'm looking into advisory roles, but at the same time, there are just so many things that are still worthwhile to do in Mobila. I mean, there's a lot of change in the automotive industry. Only looking at electric vehicles, the whole change to greener mobility, all the uncertainties that are out there in that space, but also other changes like people actually trying to buy cars fully online,
Mm.
where the car industry was kind of um, the last resort, where actually people went to the dealership and did a test drive and so on. But you see this kind of de-emotionalization of cars a little bit also in Germany, where this is a real big thing, where people tend to subscribe to cars, or basically buy online. And this is introducing another level of complexity that we try to make simple as a platform.
So let's talk about the Mobila. I'm just wondering, what is your current team structure? In-house, outsource? How do you structure it?
Yeah, we have a mix of in-house and external. Product tech and mobile is roughly 350, 400 people. The majority is still internal. And I think there needs to be a healthy mix in that. If you lean into something too much, you will see the downsides quite heavily. Um, so when we work with externals, it's mainly to speed things up when we scale up new businesses, or if we decide that a certain product is maybe nothing we want to have as the core of our business anymore, and kind of phase it out a little bit, that we hand it over to external parties to run it in a way for us. But what we want to avoid is kind of being too dependent on external parties when it comes to core aspects of our business, because this is not healthy and
Yeah,
a risk in itself.
yeah.
So we believe in managing that quite consciously. Um, at the same time, external parties, and this is, I think, the second aspect of it, do bring in new ideas, new energies to teams. So we see it as a valuable addition to our teams. Also bringing in subject matter experts in certain fields to actually immerse ourselves with this knowledge, where it's maybe harder to hire someone if you then have this lone fighter in your organization, where then the question will become, how do you develop these people functionally? How can they grow also in terms of career if they're maybe the only person doing a certain thing? So that's where externals come in. A strong belief we have is externals shouldn't be just treated as, yeah, this is a separate team and they don't really belong to us. For us, externals are actually a real part of our teams, of the rituals and so on, so that they really understand like what is our business direction, how we're working, how we're dealing with stuff, also our culture, um, to really have this belonging kind of thinking in there.
Okay, and regarding the team structure and what you said, I'm just wondering who's your partner in crime, with whom you work the most.
Yeah. So maybe there are 2 or 3 answers to that. Um, I'm as I'm leading product and technology in Mobila. So my teams are basically product in the sense of product managers, head of products, then technology, all the engineers, data scientists, and so on. And then it's also UX, and in my case also organizational development, which is kind of a special case in a way. So the people I'm working most with is my direct team, that consists of head of technologies, head of product, head of UX, head of data, and we work kind of in an org structure that is based on the customer journey, then structured in crews and teams. So maybe different naming for a couple of things, but you may see some similarities to other companies out there who published a little bit about that. So we believe in autonomous teams, end-to-end accountability and ownership for certain parts of the customer journey, a certain domain, and in true cross-functional work. And this doesn't end with product and tech. It's really like, if you look at the consumer upper funnel, you will have marketing in there, you will have analysts in there, and so on, to really understand like user acquisition, user retention, and these kind of things. So that's the first part of the answer. The second part of the answer, I'm part of the Mobila management team, which then is basically overlooking the company holistically. And when it comes to that, my biggest partner in crime is potentially the COO, so the Chief Operating Officer, where it's really talking about what are the priorities, what is the strategy of our business, and subsequently of our products. He's called Jochen, I'm called David, and we get this cool mixed up name Jovid when we're together on stage. So I think that says a lot.
That's a great answer. And and regarding the challenges that you are having, this combining the CTO and CPO, I've seen this is kind of like getting really popular. So you have this concept of CTPO, and I'm wondering, in your case, what are the biggest challenges that you face being in this role?
Yeah. Next to being asked the question about a CPTO or CTO and CPO, which is always nice, and answering that shortly, I think there's a good time for a CPTO and a good context for a CPTO, and there's also a good time maturity of a company and context for having both roles separately. So there's no right or wrong there, I guess. In looking at challenges in my role, I think one of the biggest evergreens is, how do you actually balance creating user value and putting in time in functional excellence, or reducing technical debt, however you wanna call it, and that's not easy. And in a way, it really comes together where product and tech meet. So it comes together in this kind of role. in a way, and you can put rules around that, but then still it's not that it's like a thing that just solves itself, right? Um, and I guess the second aspect is, and maybe also an evergreen, it's creating the organization and the processes and the environment to actually enable productive work. And if I'm thinking about like what's actually my role in this organization, it's basically that, together with my
Mm.
team. Um, and maybe last comment on that, and I think that it's nothing that is reserved for the CPTO role, but for every C-level role in a way, or every leadership role actually. And one mentor of me put it quite nicely. He said, as a leader, you need to decide the undecidable. And this will always be a challenge to do that.
Mm. That's a good answer. Um, And I have one common problem. As I mentioned to you before, I talked with my colleague who's CPO, and he asked me like, "Could you ask David this question?" And I just wanted to ask you because I think it's a huge challenge, especially in your role too. So, how do you decide, and what is like maybe the process behind it? Do you if you want to build the feature, or do you need to terminate the feature, because sometimes you have the features that needs to be terminated? Like, what is the decision making process behind this?
Yeah, and as history shows, it's always easier to start building stuff than to say goodbye to stuff. So maybe that as a first comment. Um, Building stuff is quite straightforward. I mean, a lot of companies evolved around the ideas of business cases to actually start something big and new, like looking at starting from, hey, there's a user problem. We kind of are in a position to actually tackle that problem, and we have ideas how you can solve it with a digital product in a way. And then, of course, you ask yourself the questions like, how big is the audience? How confident are you that you can solve the problem? And is there actually um, also a good business reason to do it, right? Because what we do is actually we want to solve user problems or customer problems, and by that also having a sustainable business. Um, so that's kind of straightforward because everybody knows there are different metrics you can use for that. We know how to measure a successful business. At least there is measures that are used worldwide for that. But when it comes to terminating products, it's for me a lot more emotional. Also from an organizational perspective, I mean, people invested potentially years of their professional life building a certain product or product suite, um, and and it really needs a lot of diligence to actually ask the question: should
Mm.
we actually stop a product? And I think there are a couple of signals or indicators that you can use. I talked about a little bit of functional excellence, technical depth, and so on. And if your team doesn't grow every year, you will kind of experience that when you build and build and build new products and features, the complexity of the platform grows. The artifact ownership per person or per team is increasing, which kind of sends a couple of small signals you should listen to. Um, so if your product development lifecycle is not also looking at terminating products, you will see effects of that in terms of platform health and so on. So we do not have like a review cycle where we look through all of our products on a quarterly or yearly basis. That's not what we're doing. but everyone is free to kind of come up with, hey, this piece of product, there's not so much business value anymore. Can we please look at how much effort it is to actually keeping it afloat in a way? And these kind of conversations we have for a couple of products each year, where we then decide like what's the right way to go forward with that. Because at the end of the product development lifecycle, it doesn't necessarily need to be you just shut it down. And sometimes you have legal obligations to have a product for a certain period of time because you handed out contracts for it. So this plays a role, and then also maybe it's a conscious decision to evolve the product or refactor the product in a way to make it relevant again, right? So that's kind of the basic thinking.
And let's discuss a bit more the market trends and how do you approach following the market trends? Because what you said about the EVs, this is now the hot topic. And I have a feeling based on my experience as a leader, you always look how you could lead people better, how you can help them to communicate and deliver the value. But on the other hand, you're trying to help those guys and find the right trends and like set up the long-term strategy based on your market research and based, I don't know, on the market trends that are there. And I'm just wondering, how do you approach it? Maybe you read something, maybe you go to some conferences that are really important for yourself. What is your process here?
Yeah, that's maybe the one challenge I forgot on your question earlier. The constant learning aspect in a world where your day job takes a little bit of time, and then your family, friends, hobbies, hopefully hobbies. It's also, it's not only the question of are you still willing to learn, but it's also a question of being efficient around that. Um, so for me, it's really trying to combine a couple of things. I'm active part of a couple of CTO groups, so getting insights and knowledge from these other leaders in the industry. Throughout my whole career, I had mentors and coaches to actually have someone to talk to about certain
Mm,
things. And then it's also learning through podcasts and books, in my case more audiobooks, and I touched on being efficient around that. um, Usually I listen to podcasts and audiobooks while commuting on my bike,
mm,
or while training, basically running, biking. It's a little bit harder in swimming, but you can also do that. um, and then I have a couple of newsletters I read, like TLDR and these kind of
mm,
things, to at least understand like what are the key themes out there, and then dig deeper if I feel that's valuable in
mhm,
the end. Um, but this is still one of the biggest challenge, especially if you kind of as a profile. I consider myself a generalist.
mm,
It's technology, it's product, it's general management in a lot of
mm,
ways. So there are just a lot of topics that you could
mm,
lose yourself into, basically. So it's really also a question of how deep do you go into certain things, like and then lastly, it's also by visiting conferences. And it spans from automotive conferences to kind of tech gatherings and so on. So really meeting a lot of people.
and I think like especially in area like of the new market, especially in a tech, I see there's a lot of like new tools each day, new libraries, new approaches to build the products, and it's really tempting and it's really hard to decide like should we go this way or should we like rewrite our product. And I'm just wondering, how do you identify and decide on your tools, because those influence the whole teams, right? It's like you have a huge team, and I could imagine, like, based on my experience, that the developers, for instance, they are going with like a bunch of new different things each day, and I say like, hey, we should go this way. But at the same point, you need to make the decision, and probably it's really tough to find yourself within all those tools. So how do you decide if you go this way or that way, regarding the new tools that influence the whole teams?
Yeah, that's the beauty of a kind of big organization, in a way. So you don't have to do this all on your own. Um, for collaboration tools, I touched upon the organizational development team. So a lot of these kind of insights come from them. And usually we do run tests with a small user group first, trying to figure out, like, does it really fit our needs? Is it um, really better than the tools we use so far? Um, and also for developer experience, we have a platform team figuring some of the things out. We're part of a bigger portfolio of companies, so you also have like Adewinter, our parent company, defining kind of a golden path and path of the developer experience, where they really also gather insights from all the portfolio companies, like what worked, what didn't work so well, to kind of not find the perfect solution, because I think there is no perfect, especially if you have like a diverse set of companies and needs. But actually trying to gather this insight and then test, evaluate, and bring it to the people. And for Mobile, we also run innovation days once a quarter for 3 to 4 days, where basically people are free to just test things out. And this is kind of interesting, because a lot of the things that are done there, like I would say like 60% of the things are really like trying to build new product ideas, MVPs, trying to test something out. The other part is about developer experience and tools and new frameworks, like figuring out, could this be something we should pick up in a way. And when it comes to additions to our tech stack, then obviously this goes through like architecture decision records to actually put it on our tech radar and adopt it. But the innovation days are really like this safe space in a way, to really test, like, is there a reason to adopt certain things?
Are there any tools, trends, ideas, or concept that you are really passionate about recently, and you are, getting into the detail of it?
I mean, it's potentially not only me; it's the whole world right now, right? It's I mean, the opportunities and challenges with AI
Mm.
is what has been the dominant theme for the last couple of innovation days, actually. And I mean, it's a lot of playing with the opportunities and trying to understand, like, where does it actually add user value, because I think there are a lot of things out there that are done for the purpose of doing stuff with AI right now. Not too much that is actually providing sustainable user value. And I think finding this sweet spot where it's actually helpful, and how do you productionize it in a way, is where a lot of our attention is in those innovation days. And the next one is actually early December. So
Mm.
really looking forward to that.
How often do you do those?
Quarterly.
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 Okay. Okay. Um, Okay, and I have another question that I wanted to ask you about, like, organizing the teams, and maybe you could have some advices or tips for other leaders. Uh, how do you successfully deliver the product, and especially in the teams that are so, like, you have in-house, you have outsource, maybe you have different time zones. Some of people are remote. I don't know. Do you have any advices or tips what worked in your case? in such a highly distributed teams to make the deliver the product successful.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing for Mobile is we're kind of all located in roughly the same time zone. So a lot of our people are located in Germany, especially like all the people that are working internally for us are located in Germany. Um, um, so that's fairly easy in terms of time zone. But we're not a real office first company anymore. I
Mm,
mean, there was this major incident worldwide that
mm,
led to us being a remote company for quite some time. Um, Now we're back with at least the office option, I would say. Um, and But we are holding that quite flexibly. So there's no pressure for you to be in the office, for example. I think our policy says something like a minimum of 4 days a quarter or something
mm,
you need to be in the office, and nobody checks. So that's kind of the policy right now. Um, but what we're saying as Mobile is, hey, we want to have these moments, um, the moments where teams come together. Because we believe that magic happens when actually people come together to create
mm,
stuff. So innovation days is a good example where we try to kind of also provide a couple of things that make people come to the office and do magic. And it's these moments are of course best case celebrations and stuff like that, or when it comes to creative work, like people in the room whiteboarding, trying to figure out something. And the last aspect that is pretty important from my point of view is that you as a leader for your team reflect, like, are we maybe a team that is in the forming or storming phase? Because there I believe like coming together as a team and doesn't necessarily have to be in the office um, is worthwhile to actually come to this performing stage at a certain point. um, and for us that works quite well if the reflection is there and the teams really understand like where they're at. I think that works quite well. Um, and for working with externals, as I said before, it's really making them part of the rituals, making them part of the teams, to actually have them experience exactly the same, and that works quite well. Um, and then, of course, we're working with a couple of partners, more like in the nearshoring space, for example, where it's not so easy to just meet in person tomorrow, maybe. And I think the one learning also, and also that is basically true in every hybrid or remote setup, is the additional investment you need to do in proper communication uh, can't be overestimated.
mm,
So it's really a lot you need to do additionally. And it doesn't really, like, communication doesn't end when you just put a post somewhere in a Slack channel with 400 people. Um, you will see it in the reactions. Not 400 people will read it. Kind of uh, transporting a strategy or transporting a key decision is not done by just one post in a Slack channel. It really takes more, and it takes more effort than in the office days.
mm. The over communication is the key, I think, in this
Yeah,
case, right?
yeah,
So you
definitely.
think it's already clear, but it's not. You need to do it in a couple different ways, maybe in different meetings on a different occasion. So it makes a lot of sense. Um, and David, based on your experience, I'm just wondering, and I'm asking like each of our guests about the most important lessons learned that you have had as a technology or a product leader that change, maybe something that changed your mindset or some lessons learned here. If you could share something like that.
Yeah, I think there are a couple. there, and I think we could spend like 2 days talking about only this question. I think on my leadership journey, one of the hardest things was getting used to delegating, and I think I'm not alone with that. But when you're coming from roles and positions where you did a lot yourself, and were also confident about doing things yourself, um, then it's feels kind of strange in a way to kind of delegate and kind of lose your grip a little bit. And I think for me, it needed that moment in a way where I couldn't handle anymore doing all the things myself.
Mm,
So really learning it and also experience like people will do things much better than I did. So that's great. And now I'm fortunate enough to have a team where I can delegate freely, and it's also a matter of trust, of knowing each other and so on. So that's great. Um, the other piece, and that's this in a way is it's two pieces connected in a way. Um, when I became CPTO, another mentor said to me, "Yeah, get used to not seeing the impact of your work anymore, like directly. It will take
mm,
months, years
mm,
for you to actually realize if something worked well or did not." And I was like, yeah, of course. And there's a lot of truth to that. This kind of self efficacy that you actually see, I'm doing that, and this is the impact of that. When it's so diluted and so far away, um, it can have the effect that you question if you actually have impact at all.
mm,
And then we're talking about our friend the imposter syndrome in a way.
mm,
Um, so that's real, especially like giving you're in a more or less generalist type of role. The impact of your actions can't be really measured in the
mm,
day to day. And then you really ask yourself the question like, what the heck am I doing here? That is it really valuable? Um, and I think one big realization over time was you're not alone with asking these questions. I
mm,
talked to so many leaders, and basically everyone experienced uh, these kind of phases where you really doubt like
mm,
really having an impact what I'm doing. And also like can I actually do something, do I know something, and these kind of things. I think that's normal in a way, but normal doesn't mean that it's always easy to deal with.
mm. Man, I cannot agree more with that. So it's so hard to get any kind of gratification, and in most cases, at those high leadership roles, you are getting hit by so many problems, and nobody is saying like great job, and like mostly you are hit by the problems. So plus the long term vision that you have, and to have some kind of like idea about it. Yeah, I fully agree with that. It's so difficult. It's so difficult. Um, and the last question that I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned the audiobooks, you mentioned some conferences, some podcasts. Uh, Maybe was there something particular helpful for you, or maybe you could share some podcasts that or audiobooks that you have listened to recently. It would be great.
Yeah, sure. I think there's also one evergreen I always mention in these kind of questions, coming from having been in different roles in global organizations. I think the Culture Map by Aaron Meyer is a foundation everyone should have read in a way. So it's really um, trying to make you understand that the way you function, the way you've been grown up and you've been accustomed to in dealing with people and with conversations and so on is not the way everyone else in the world is going up to. And on the website, there's also a cool test where you can basically test yourself and see like what kind of communication profile you have and these kind of things. So I found it really helpful to also understand why you've been perceived in a way, and how certain interactions work or may not work in global organizations. And then lately, I've been reading The Diary of a CEO. Um, uh, Not that I want to become CEO today or tomorrow, but I think the subtitle is something like Laws of Business and Life. And it's taking you through, I think, 30, 40, 50 kind of rules or laws that are true for life and for business, and making you hopefully a better leader if you understand them. And there were a couple of refreshing things in there that I liked. And the last one, maybe totally different category of book. The Limit is Just Me, from Jonas Deichmann. He's a adventure, extreme sports person. Um, and I mean, I'm considering myself sporty. I did marathons, I did an Ironman, and these kind of things. But this guy did an Ironman around the world, so 120 times the swimming leg, then 120 times the bike leg through Siberia and so on, and then 120 times marathon through Mexico in consecutive days. All of that, right? Um, in the pandemic. And this book is about his journey. You can also watch it on Netflix. That's easier. But it's really, and it still can teach you a lot about stuff. Like when it comes to having this project, Ironman around the world, it's too big to grasp actually. And he's talking a lot like what are the mental models you actually need to make it still work if you cycle a day in minus 35 degrees through Siberia um, with frozen foods and stuff like that, right? Um, and I think it just gives a different perspective on a lot of things. And also, even if maybe this does not sound uh, like fun all the time, he's really much about, yes, but this is what I want to do, and this is why it's best to be here in this moment, even if this moment right now is a little bit interesting. Um, and I really like to get exposed to these kind of mental models and thinking.
Nice one. I will check it out for sure. I think the sports is really helpful in running the business or being a leader. It's like to have the sport. It's and to have the sport that you like and you do a lot. It's really helpful for your mind. So this I'll check it out.
Cool.
So David, thank you so much for all those insights and really interesting conversation. I really appreciate your time and that you have shared all of that here. Um, Thank you for everything.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Follow Matt on LinkedIn and subscribe to the Better Tech Leadership newsletter.